So myself, I'm the technical director at Green Mantra Technologies, and today I just wanted to touch upon kind of what we do and how we're trying to advance the resource-efficient economy. So I'll touch upon our company, a bit about our technology, our operations, and then kind of also some of the work we've done with academic partnerships to try to get to where we are today. So first, what are we doing at Green Mantra? Well, we're taking a patented process and a proprietary catalyst, and we're doing a selective scission of waste polymers. And we're converting those waste polymers to specialty chemicals. We can do a variety of different products, but our initial focus as a company was on waxes. And typically when I say waxes, most people say, great, what type of candle or crayon are you making? But that's not the type of wax we're actually focused in. So when you look at the slide behind me, the wax space is actually quite diverse. There's a variety of different products and types of waxes. And when it comes to candle and crayons, that's usually a paraffin wax, so you're deriving that from a more natural source. And the waxes we're producing are polyolefin waxes. These are offsets for synthetic waxes made from ethylene, propylene, or possibly syngas in a Fischer-Tropsch process. And so initially as a company, where we focused is on polyolefin offsets. But as we grow with a company and increase our research and also our development, we're going to move into oxidized waxes, Fischer-Tropsch waxes, and then we'll also be producing some offsets within the fossil sector. So for time's sake, I won't bore you kind of with a history of the company, but I do want to highlight a couple things. We were founded in 2010, and from that point, we had an initial lab facility, then a pilot facility, and at this point, we just brought online our first commercial facility, actually had our ribbon cutting yesterday. And at various stages over the years, it's been with strategic partners and strategic academic projects with various professors across universities across Canada that we've been able to kind of accelerate our innovation and accelerate our process. So that's something that's important to us and that we want to continue to keep developing. So touching upon our technology, the first thing I want to do is take a step back and look at the polymer space as a whole. And what I'm showing here is, these are numbers from 2014, where when you think of all the plastic you're putting into your blue bin, only about 30% of that is truly recycled. You either then have about 10 to 40% that's going to energy, so either through combustion, and then the remaining 30 to 60% is going to landfill. What's even more interesting is when you dig into that 30% that's being recycled, that inner pie chart, the vast majority of that is made up of two resins. So about 80% of that is made up of either PET from water bottles or your rigid high density plastics. A very small portion comes from film and an even smaller sliver from foam products. And two of the reasons why that occurs, one, the low weight to volume ratio of films and foams. So they're a challenge to deal with within the MRFs, and they're a challenge based on just the shipping logistics of a very low dense material. But the other more, let's say, larger concern is that when you're trying to take a film and put it back into a film or a foam back into a foam, that feedstock requires a high level of purity and tolerance, and you can't always achieve that with a recycled stream, and that's why there's very few groups that are taking a film and putting it right back into a film, and even less that are doing polystyrene back into expanded polystyrene. And so now what I want to look at is the life cycle of a polymer and kind of how we fit into that life cycle. So from the very beginning, depending on the plastic you're producing, you'll have a variety of different monomers you're dealing with. You'll go through a polymerization process, and then you'll end up with your raw polymer. At that point, depending on the application it's going into, you're going to blend in and add different compounding or different additives. You'll form it into its final product, and then it'll get sold into the application. At that point, you'll reach your end of life. And if we want to avoid the plastic going back into landfill, there's three different pathways we can take. So probably the easiest is just a primary mechanical recycling. This is when you take your water bottle, you rinse it out, you reuse it, you reuse your plastic bag. But at some point, the bottle's going to fail or the bag's going to tear, and you have to go through a second pathway. And that's going to be the more traditional secondary mechanical recycling. This is where you're sorting, regrinding, melting, and forming it back into a new product. But there is limitations there. Not all plastics are well suited for that. And then there's only so many times you can cycle through a polymer in its remelt before you kind of lose some of its integrity. So there is a need for a third stream, and there is one out there. It's been there for quite a while, which is chemical recycling. And that's where we tie into, and that's when you're actually structurally, chemically altering the polymer chain into a new product. A lot of the work done in this space to date has been on pyrolysis or gasification of polymers to either fuels or energy. And kind of the approach we take is to be a little different, a little more selective, and produce a variety of different specialty chemicals. So now specifically with our process, Initially, we can take a variety of different polyolefin feedstocks, and that's where we focused, your number 2, your number 4, and your number 5 plastics. And we can take a variety of different either post-industrial, post-consumer, rigid, but our biggest focus and where we spend a lot of our energy is taking those post-consumer or agricultural films and using those as our starting feedstocks. We take these polymers and then through extrusion, melt and push them into or flow them into our reactors where they're in contact with our catalyst. So you see an image of the catalyst there. It's our heterogeneous catalyst with an aluminum oxide support. So that just means it doesn't go into the same phase as the polymer. The liquid polymer passes over the surface of the catalyst, destabilizes it, and gives us the selectivity and the scission. And it's a combination of the amount of catalyst, time, temperature, mixing speed that allows us to control the properties of the different wax products we produce. And currently to date, we have 2 different wax streams that we produce, a G or an A series. And really the main difference between the two is whether we're using a more natural stream of recycled resin compared to a mixed color. These waxes go into a variety of different end applications. So they can be, and currently we sell into applications for polymer modified roofing, into modified asphalt for roads, hot melt adhesive, coatings, inks, and then back into the polymer space for processing and compounding.
We're just getting a little bit of feedback. Could you speak into the
Yeah, I can do that. Just leave that there. Sounds good. No, don't worry. Apologies. Is that better? Okay. So this next slide is really just highlighting the selectivity of our process. And it also highlights the different feedstocks we can use or combinations of them. So you have polypropylene, high density, linear low density, and low density. And at that point, we can achieve up to a 94% yield in wax, and that is on average the area that we're targeting and we produce. And then overall, we're always trying to achieve 100% mass balance in our process. And so we have a remainder, about 4% of a hydrocarbon fuel, to be similar to a bunker fuel as a co-product, a small percentage of your gaseous propane and butane, and then a very small trace amount of coke that does form. And so just quickly on our operations, this is where we started as a pilot facility. So this came online in 2012, which we scaled up in 2013 and had it running at 24 hours, 7 days a week with greater than 90% uptime, and started to sell commercially into that sector with this pilot facility. And that led us to get the funding we needed for our commercial facility, which we just brought online. And so lastly, I just want to touch upon kind of the importance for us in the academic and industrial partners. And so over the last 3 years, we've had a variety of different projects with universities across Canada, and they've been focused on either allowing us to deeper probe our catalyst and doing mechanistic studies, develop new products or new uses of those products in various applications, or begin to improve the molecular weight distribution of our process. And it wasn't just finding strategic academic partners to work with, it was also using and working with various government agencies, and some you see here, that allowed us to partner the funding with the right academic institution to really have successful projects. And that's something we're continuing looking to do. As a company, we have a variety of projects that we're working on now to expand on either looking at different low recycled rate feedstocks, so polystyrene being one, converting them to new novel products, and then continuing to develop our catalyst of our portfolio of proprietary catalysts. And so there's a lot of areas for us where we're continuing to look to gain academic partnerships with industry leaders. And so very lastly, just wanted to highlight a couple other projects that indirectly are relevant to us that we care about for research. And I won't go through all of them, but just the one there at the top. Multi-layer plastics pose a real challenge. It's a growing industry of products, but there is a challenge in how to recycle them. You have these tight layers of your polyethylene, polypropylene, ethyl vinyl acetate, polylactic acid, and other materials. And because they're so tightly bound there, it poses a real challenge for the recyclers in one, to even just do secondary mechanical recycling into new products to actually get these to blend together. But an even bigger challenge for, besides using this as a feedstock for fuel or energy, to try to chemically recycle these into new materials. And so studies looking at maybe efficient ways to mechanical or chemically separate those layers would be of real value. And the last piece I want to touch on, just with the image at the bottom, is, over the last 100 years, we spent a lot of time in the evolution and growth of the plastic manufacturing sector. But we haven't done as much yet in the recycling sector. And so to avoid kind of that tail end of kicking it right back into the stream, it's the people that are here today and the work that we're doing to kind of continue to grow that and avoid that. So with that, thank you very much.